What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draft Guys podcast with Peyton and Nico. And we are back today. It's a special day. As I always say, we are doing our Big Boards 2.0, our top 100 players in the 2026 NFL draft class. I'm your host, Nico Chambers. Nico, the draft guy, you can call me. And I'm alongside, as always, my co-host, P Dunn. P Dunn, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. This is what they say when they talk about the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. This is where you find your starters, is these first 3 rounds, this first 96 picks of the draft. And so this is a lot of guys we're going to be talking about that you're going to see a lot on Sundays. These are a lot of players you're going to see play as rookies. These third round picks, these late second round picks, these guys that we haven't talked about much on the channel before. I'm really excited to get some of these names going and circulated around. I couldn't be more excited to talk about these guys.
We worked really hard. We're sorry that we didn't get that late week video out. A lot of people have been texting me about that, but it's right here. We've been preparing for it, and it's going to be even better now that we had a few days to do it. So we'll just go straight into it, and we'll look at our 85 through 100. And Pete, is there a guy on this list that you want to introduce to the crowd or you want to talk about in general?
Where do we start? Okay, let's start at Kevin Coleman, the receiver out of Missouri. I want to talk about him. I think he's good. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a slot receiver. I think he's pretty strictly, I see him in that role. We obviously have him very similarly ranked, and we probably see him as about the same player. I think this is a guy that's going to contribute. I think he can run all of the route trees. I think this is a guy that spent a lot of time in college, a 4-year player, was a big recruit coming out of high school, and has developed over time. He's never quite hit that 5-star threshold that he was when he first came out of high school. But this is a player that you see why. This is a really great athlete that has a really developed route that can win at the catch point, good hands. Just a pretty all-around solid player. I like his footwork. I think he's clean. And like a lot of the things that I would go into depth talking about him about just shows that he really is a developed prospect. This is a guy that I trust to go in and win. And you see that value in these second to third rounds, specifically with receivers. There's a lot of guys that we're going to talk about and soon, and we're going to have a lot of the same conversations. Like there's really good depth. We are in an era of receivers where you can get guys that can give you 800-yard seasons at pick 82. And that's really special. And so this is a guy that I think can do that. I think if you get him in an offense, I'd love to see him go to the Titans. I'd love to see him in that offense. Paired with the Bengals as a wide receiver 3 for them, I think would be really cool. Just a couple things off the top of my head. He kind of reminds me of Jalen Noel, kind of from last year. That's kind of a something that I see with him. But I mean, we have him pretty similarly ranked. I like him a lot. I really enjoyed watching his tape.
It's a guy that we talked about in our first episode in the Draft Guys podcast. That was, of course, the Senior Bowl episode, talking about how he's a 4-time transfer. Once upon a time, played for Jackson State with Shadur, with Travis Hunter. Crazy to say that. I'll talk about 2 guys here, and they're going to come off the edge rush category, if you will. Number 89 for me, Romello Height, and then 99 LT Overton. I'll talk about Romello first. Really good outside the tackle as the edge. For me, he's has to be an outside linebacker. I call him a pinball because I see a bunch of him just bouncing off people, redirecting. Is that going to translate because his mediocre contact balance? I don't know. That's a big thing that for him, but he maintains the burst throughout the rush. His film is kind of out of control, but I feel like weight room fix, play strength, once he gets into an NFL system, that can really play. And then LT Overton, you know him well, Alabama guy. He's going to be a 3-4 defensive end. Really like him. He plays like a defensive tackle. Very interested to see what they do with him because he can play anywhere from the 2-eye to the 7. I think he slots in more as a 4-eye guy. Yeah, he wins inside a ton. His counter quickness needs to be looked at. His lateral quickness needs to be looked at. His get off is above average, but it needs to be better in a sense. Pete Dunn, what do you think of any of those guys, and how do you feel? Do you have one ranked higher than the other?
Hmm. Like between the guys that you just talked about.
Yeah,
I like Overton. I think he's good. I think the biggest thing with him is I don't know. He's so scheme specific. There's guys that you can see play defensive end in the 3-4, and you're like, okay, if I put you in a 4-3 system, you can make it work. He cannot do like he can't do that. Like he is, but he also can't move inside. He's never going to be a 3 tech for you. So he's very scheme specific. And with that being said, it's hard to understand the projection of where he's going to go because there's a limited amount of teams that are going to be like, even like you cut half the league off, like literally cannot draft this guy
That's right.
naturally. Understanding where he's going to go is going to be hard. What else do you want to talk about? We hit on Corleone before. Um, I actually feel pretty similar play wise about Tim Keenan, the way that I do about Corleone, just with, oh my gosh, you weigh so much and you are so strong. I think Keenan's 330, 335, and he plays exactly how you'd expect him to. And like I could give you his measurements to someone who has never watched Tim Keenan play football, and you're like, I probably know how you play football, and that's how Tim Keenan plays football. He's a really, really, really great run defender, and you have to double team him if you're running at his side. And that's about it. He doesn't contribute anything on like nothing on passing downs. And he's gonna be a guy that is a rotational first and second down player for you, and is not going to give you a whole bunch of snaps because he's just not that athletic. And so I still think there's a role for that in the league. How many times have we talked about the lack of defensive end or defensive tackles in the league? And there's literally a shortage of defensive tackles in the NFL right now. And so this guy's going to get drafted higher than he probably is the quality of player that he actually is. I'll talk about Deion Burks real quick. Kid out of Oklahoma. I think he's a poor man's Zachariah Branch, is kind of the way I see him. Just, if you are, I don't the Chiefs and you really want Branch and you don't get Branch, you're like, okay, let's get Burks in the third. Like let's get Burks in the late second, let's get Burks in the third. He's a gadget guy. I think he's not as good of a route runner as Branch. I don't think he's good of an athlete as Branch. He's a yak guy. You're gonna get him force touches. I think he can be a deep threat, but he's just kind of this Debo thing that we really. I mean, truth be told, it's not a thing that works out in the NFL a lot. These guys, we feel like we talk about every year, and like this is a gadget guy. You got to you like you. He's an asterisk. You have to know how to use him. And teams draft him, and they don't use him the right way. And so, like, look at Shaheed. Like he finally got in a system. He's a different player. I'm not saying this is who he is, but he's a guy that you have to have you need to know how to use him. And when the Seahawks figured out how to use him, look at what he did once he got in that system last year. And so, the receivers, there's so many nuances to the way that they play the position that you have to understand how to use these guys when you draft them, right? And so um, I think with him, there's going to be, if he gets in the right system, that is similar to Branch. Branch is a little more versatile. I think he's a better route runner, like I said before. But Burks in the right system, I think, can be really good. And then Surratt, the last receiver on this segment, like he's just a big body receiver. You saw him at Indiana last year, a big guy. He no wiggle, not really that great in the contested catch area. Um, you just can't he's just a high floor receiver that's gonna be able to play X for you, and that's a thing that a lot of teams need. That's a thing that a lot of teams want. And so I'll ask you this: is Drew Aller higher than this on? He is.
Drew
Okay.
Aller is higher
We'll
than
wait. We'll
this.
wait on Drew Aller. I won't talk
Well,
about Drew
wait.
Aller yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very high on Drew Aller. He's going to be my quarterback three in this class. Yes, he is on the next slide. And actually, we'll go straight to the next slide right now, and we'll show you our 70 through 84. And Drew Aller right there is at my 75 point. I just think that the intangibles are there. I
Yeah.
think he has it a little bit better than the other quarterbacks, the Nussmeyers and the Klubniks. I know you're higher on Klubnik than I am. But yeah, I'm super excited for Drew Aller, at this spot, 75, really good for him. If some team can get him in the value in the third round, I don't think he will be a second round pick. I think they should be super excited for that. I'll talk about a guy. Let's go Keith Abney to start this segment off. We'll go. He's my number 80th prospect on the list. Instinctual catch-up defensive back. Super, super athletic and raw. Can he be a boundary corner? I don't know because I see so many nickel tendencies, and that's a
I
big thing. We're doing a ton of these scouting reports on these cornerbacks, and a lot of them are falling into this new nickel role. Same thing with the safeties. There's not that many great drop back deep safeties, and there's not that many great coverage cornerbacks in this class. They have a bunch of raw athletic guys who can play this nickel position, and that's what you value apparently in this NFL system. So It's going to be big for him. I think his run support is definitely his strongest suit. Um, I see him as a third down package guy until he can clean up his coverage grades. I see him, he's a little bit late to things, and that's going to kind of be a little bit tougher. When I watch cornerbacks, I want to see you clamp the guy through and through. And I see a lot of open space that he lets the wide receiver kind of get in the way. And I know in nickel, it's a little bit different because you're playing the faster slot guy. But if he does want to be a boundary corner, just going to need to see a little bit more of that. But yeah, let me know what you think about Keith Abney.
I think he's good. What you said about him being late to things, what makes a corner great, and what I love about Terrell, what I love about Delane, what I love about McCoy, those top three corners, all dogs in this class. Really good corner class at the top. All of those dudes are good athletes. I mean, all three I think are pretty great athletes. We didn't see McCoy test, unfortunately. I think he's gonna test well if he does test. Like really good athletes, but they anticipate. And he doesn't anticipate. He's quick enough but he's not built the way those other three corners are. And so if he's going to stick on the outside, he has to make up for that by running the route for the receiver more often than he does and understanding seeing things before the receiver actually cuts and he's reactive rather than understanding where things are going to go. And I struggled with that with him. Um, I will talk about a guy that I liked a lot as a coverage corner is Malik Muhammad. I liked his tape a lot.
Yep.
I will say, I watched him pretty early on, and the first game I watched of him was the Ohio State game. And that tape's really, really good against Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Some of the best corner reps I've seen in this cycle. Again, talking about those corners we saw at the top. Like there was some really, really great reps against some really, really high tier receivers. And so I think he tailed off at the end of the season. The SEC schedule definitely got to him. There was some games towards the back half that I didn't love. I think he got less physical, but he's a good athlete. He ran a 4.42 at the combine. I think he's got a good build. He's got a good arm length. I think he's 6 foot 188, I think is what he tested in at. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I think that's what he tested in. It's somewhere in that range. And so I like him. I think he's a developmental corner. Again, same thing we're talking about with Abney. Like there is times I think he's slow reactionary wise, but it's I trust the athleticism more than I trust Abney's. I think he's a little quicker. I think he's more physical. I think Keith Abney looks like a slot corner. Malik Muhammad can play on the outside. He's built like an outside corner. And so, oh my gosh, dude. You want to talk about an outside corner, Takario Davis? Sheesh. I mean, built in a lab. This is a Joey Porter Jr., Tariq Woolen build for a corner with the arm length and height that this guy has. This is a guy that's gotten a lot of buzz for the last few years. Um, Transferred a couple times. He was getting a lot of hype at Arizona. And like this is just kind of waited to see him culminate. There's first round buzz a couple years ago, just because of how much of an athletic freak this guy is, and he just never put it together. And so someone's going to want this guy. He is what we see every year with the athletes on the defensive side, offensive side, doesn't matter. If you're a good athlete, you're the level of athlete this guy is, with the man coverage tendencies that come through that show his athleticism that you see on tape. Someone's going to take a draft of him and draft him at a higher spot than I think where he is right now on my list at 76.
We'll stay on the cornerback train. I'll talk about Julian Neal, my number 73 player on my big board. Man, the film, if you watch the film, blanking on the wide receivers who try to go inside on a slant route or anything really, blanket mirrors them so well. Um, Redirects receivers with his like one hand jab that he does. Hand fighting, he wins almost all the time. Uh, yeah, I don't have him higher than Muhammad. Muhammad's going to be on my next slide, actually, even higher than where you have him. But Julian Neal is right after him. I don't know where that ranks in the list. It's cornerback 8 or cornerback 9, somewhere in that range. Really like him. Just everything he does, he's so projectable at 6'1", 202. You can build off of him. He's obviously a little bit more of a developmental guy. If you get him in a good fit and a good system, it's going to be a match made in heaven. I'm super excited to see what he does. I'll move on here because I have 3 tight ends on this list, and they're all super close. And I know that one of them, my third ranked tight end on this list, you have a lot higher. That'll be Eli Raridon. And the one thing we talked about it's just he's the best blocker in this class out of the tight ends. It's just can he be that developmental receiving kind of tight end? That's something that I think that you look at a guy like Michael Trigan, that's what he is, but he
Yeah.
needs to learn how to block. So they're kind of swapped. I look at the frame of Michael Trigan, I'm like, whoa, like if you can teach a dude how to block, and I don't know how hard that is for a guy his size, he's 6'4", he's huge. If they can teach him how to block, Michael Trigan is going to be a great tight end in this league. But the guy in the middle is Josh Cuevas. He's the polished one of them. Um, Pullback capabilities. I
Yeah.
love Josh Cuevas. I mean, he does everything right. Run after the catch, like yards after the catch, making plays. He can block. He's a really good football player. What do you have to say about kind of those three? How you rank them? Are those guys on your list? Because one's on your list. I think two are missing.
Yeah, I don't have Trig or Cuevas in my top 100. I think Trig, I just don't know that I don't think he's an elite enough route runner to translate to the next level. I think he's a really good athlete. I think he's really fast. I don't think I trust translation to the next level enough yet, if that makes sense. And then Cuevas, everything you said is correct. I just don't think that's worth taking in this range. I think he's just a very, very, very safe pick. Um, Eli Raridan, I mean, he's 6'7". He's massive. He blocks unbelievably well, and he was really, really good for the first 3 or 4 games of Notre Dame's. I mean, he was good all year, but he was the first 3 or 4 games of Notre Dame season. CJ Carr was just the quarterback. He was a freshman quarterback, just started. Raridan was his guy. That was Malachi Fields, Jordan Faison, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, like all those dudes in that offense. Eli Raridan was his safety blanket. And so that was who they went to on third down when they needed a big play. They threw it to him. And so the passing game is there. The catch radius is awesome. With the blocking capabilities, I think the upside's really, really good with him. I have him very high. But there's another tight end that I cannot wait to talk about that we'll talk about in a little bit that I might even have higher. Um, but where do you have Jonah Coleman? Do you have higher in this?
He is not in my top 100, and I don't know,
We
man.
got to talk about it.
I have a tough time with him, and I'll tell you why. I think he's a really good running back. I think that he does the right things. He's so shifty, I feel like there's this lack of patience, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to translate. I don't know if this kind of play style that he has. He obviously has a little bit of size concerns. He's undersized. He's 5'9". He kind of runs out of control for me outside the tackles. I don't know. Like I see it at times, but that's a really short running back. I don't know, man. Like you talk to me about him because I know you have him higher.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I think I trust him. It's kind of that age-old saying, like if you need him to get you 7 yards, he'll get you three. If you need him to get you 3 yards, he'll get you three. And so like I think he's a really good short yardage back. He's the bowling ball. He's 5'9". Like what I think he's somewhere in the 220 to 230 range. Like he's huge. And he moves well for that weight. Like he has a lot of weight he's carrying at a short frame, and he moves well. I think he's athletic. The top speed is not there. And I agree with you, the vision wasn't great. There was plenty of times he was running into the back of his offensive lineman. I don't trust him in outside zone. I think he's a power run player. And so a zone concept, kind of what we were talking about with Latham earlier, or sorry, LT Overton earlier. Like I don't think a zone concept team is going to be able to draft this guy. But in a power scheme, like that can understand a utilize him as a change of pace back. I think he's really good, and I think he could be really good in that system. And I trust that someone hopefully will take a swing on him and put him in the right situation. So I've got him there because I think there's a high floor there. And truth be told, I thought I was going to like this running back class way more than I have. And the more that I've gotten into those guys, it's just really, really not a good class.
Emmett Johnson definitely fell for me. I was super high on him at the beginning. He didn't have a good combine. Nick Singleton is going to be the guy who I think is probably going to be my running back three. He's ranked at the number 71 spot here. Really like what he does. You saw Kaytron Allen on the last slide. I think he's going to be my running back four. You'll have Emmett Johnson fill in after, and I think Jonah Coleman will be in that running back 7 or 8 range. Really quickly, before we move on, I'll talk about Darrell Jackson Jr. I don't think he's on your list, but he's on mine just on the projectability alone. 6'5", 337, huge frame, massive wingspan. push and drive defender that will outlast you. When he attacks you properly, he can. I don't quote me on this. This was an NFL analyst. When he attacks properly, he can basically cover two gaps, and that's an intriguing thing. He's not going to be a nose tackle. He's going to be a two-eye defensive tackle in the NFL. For me, he lacks explosiveness. I want to see more with his huge body type, and really the fundamentals behind it are a little bit lacking. Pete, is there anybody on your list that you want to hit on before we move on?
Yeah, the last guy here I want to talk about is Chris Bell, because I think a lot of people have him a lot higher than I do. And he's a big receiver with good weight on him. He's built very, very well. And Louisville did not ask him to run anything near to a NFL level route tree. And so a lot of what I look in when I'm scouting these players is, okay, were you asked to do, or are you capable of doing what the NFL is going to ask you to do? Because that's really important. With Mendoza, a lot of the question marks I've had with him is you don't run anything near what an NFL system looks like. Chris Bell has no idea how to run a comeback route. He has no idea how to run a backside dig. He does. I mean, he knows how to, but he was not asked to do these things. And truth be told, his best skill was yak. They did a really great job of getting him in screen stuff, and he was really, really good at that. The ACL scares me a lot. It scares me a lot. I don't think he was going to test. I mean, I take that back. I think he was going to test well. I think he's a really, really good athlete. I don't like that he didn't test. I wanted to see more out of him as a route tree concept. And we're talking about the running backs that I liked way less than I thought I would. The receivers, I like way more than I thought I would. And so it's a crowded room, it's a crowded class, and he did not check a lot of boxes for me outside of the yak stuff. I really like what he can contribute in that role.
I wrote down here. Crosser's Merchant, very predictable route runner, lot of short gain film, great contested catch, or sorry, bad contested catch in traffic, not good either. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to look at
Oh,
for him. But I do have him ranked on this next slide that you'll see right here at my number 66 slot. But this is our 56 through 69 rankings. And P Dunn, you'll have the floor to talk about anybody you want.
oh boy, where do we start? I mean, I want to talk about Klubnik because I've got him high. This is, I, ha, I don't think a lot of people have a top 70 grade on Kate Klubnik right now, and it's kind of the similar conversation to what I've talked about before. The way that I gravitate towards these quarterbacks is, can you understand how to dissect the defense? And do you know what's happening pre-snap? Are you able to move off of your reads quickly? Can you look at something and predict something's not going to be there and be right? And are you able to, hit that backside dig? Are you able to be under center, go through that play action and roll out to the right and hit that crosser over the middle? And so the arm talent's not great, or else he'd be higher. There was some times where I'm like, man, what are you doing? But it's there sometimes. It flashes. So I'm kind of trusting on the upside that he can continue to develop his pass. This is a really young player. He's not an old quarterback prospect, and so I think there's room for him to grow. And I trust the processing ability. I like the way that he sees the field as a quarterback, and in a class that is awful. It's a bad, bad quarterback class. He's my quarterback three, just based off of that alone.
Very, very interesting. I'll talk about a guy here, both on this list for us, are Mason Thomas. You talk about a guy who prevails, and it's almost like he's saying prevail, prevail in his head because he's too small to be a true edge. So I see an outside linebacker, background for him. He's 6'2", 245. He's just this NASCAR package guy. That's what you're going to get from him. He's got such a high motor. And is that going to translate? I think it translates, but it's only going to translate if, he's a rotational player. I don't think he will ever be at the defensive end that they asked him to be at Oklahoma, or the outside linebacker who plays on all three downs. There's a play on the film, and you'll see it where he's kind of the edge on the line as almost a seven tech without the tight end. He moves into five, and he tries to just basically speed around this huge, I think it was 6'8", 330-pound offensive tackle, and he gets pushed out of the way, but somehow finds a way to get all the way around and flail fly tackle over the quarterback for this sack. Those are going to be the plays that you're going to get from him because he's got strength and size concerns. Can he develop a pass rush bag? Because that's a huge thing that you have to do as really a edge in this sense, but he's really going to be an outside linebacker. My pro comp for him is Josiah Stewart from last year. He went third round, 90th overall to the Rams. I can see a similar range. I think I have him a little bit higher because of just really how good he is in terms of his speed. He's faster than Josiah Stewart. But it's just, for me, it's a matter of does it translate?
Let's talk about Malachi Fields pretty quickly, just because I think there's been a huge fluctuation with him from a guy that was like a day three pick to a why is he going to the Bills at 28 in mocks, and now I feel like I haven't heard about him in a month. And so this is a guy, I've mentioned before, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I watched a lot of Malachi Fields this year. This is a proven production receiver. He had 800 back-to-back 800-yard seasons at UVA. Had some, I think he was somewhere in the 600 range this season in a crowded offensive room. And so he's an X. He's a big X. This dude is one of the best catches receivers in the class. He is a monster at the catch point. Monster at the catch point. Again, I think he can run a more developed route tree than some of these other prototypical X's you see. It's just not super explosive. He's not twitchy, but it's more than I think you think of when you think of a big body X. I mean, this is a grown man. He's 6'4", 220, I think. Like there's a lot of weight on this dude. And to move the way he does, he's got a little wiggle in him. The hips are fluid. He's off the line quick. I trust him getting off a press as you need with an X receiver. So again, that's something that these receivers, I mean, these NFL teams like, and they like the ability to like, okay, you have a developed route tree, you're a monster at the catch point, and you're a high floor receiver. I know when I'm gonna throw it to you, you're gonna catch it. I know when I throw it up to you, you're gonna catch it, and I know you're gonna be open more than some of these other guys that I'm going to draft on, day three that are also 6'4", 220 that can't move the way you do. So, with all that being said, I have him as a top 70 player. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the number right here, 64, reminds me of DK Metcalf. Hard not to think of him. Obviously, a less explosive version, but man, if he gets in the right system, he'll be one of those guys who's like, how did he go in the second round? Like you can see the projection, you can see the potential. Talk about two guys with some really good potential from the edge class. I'll go back there. Joshua Joseph and Derek Moore. I'll talk about Joshua Joseph's first.
Please.
Dude, I really like this dude's film. I mean, upright. He has this upright stance, and then all of a sudden, this powerful arm drive, and he's just finishing these tackles. He's jumping around. It's like, whoa, this dude can move. He's a bulldozer as a defensive end edge rusher, and that's kind of not something that you see very often. Super disruptive interior moves. I do think he gets slowed down by force sometimes. I don't think he plays low enough in a sense. Can he play lower? That's just something that comes with time. He has these jagged angles. That's a big thing for him. Can he get better change of direction in different kind of tools with the right NFL team? That's my question for him. And then I'll flip to a guy, Derek Moore, who's one of those high floor players. I don't see a high ceiling for him. He's so methodical with his pass rush moves. He's going to project only as a defensive end for me. I don't see him as an outside linebacker because he's too slow to be there. My question is he strong enough to be a true three down defensive end? I see him right now kind of teetering. I see a bunch of really good, nothing super exceptional from him except for his football IQ and awareness that I think is super good. Can he improve his bend and shiftiness? Those are going to be the big marks for Derek Moore of Michigan.
Pivot into another who I think is a defensive end. Obviously, is Zion Young. This dude is massive. He's really big. I think he develops. I think he has a pass rush plan, and I think he's able to pull off both speed rushes as well as he's very powerful. And I think that when you see a powerful player with that build that is able to have some bend to him, that is able to swipe the way he can to kind of wiggle his hips and finesse his way around these offensive tackles. I think it's um, rare. And so I think he plays the run well. He's never going to be a double digit sack guy for you. And he's like, I just, I don't, I'm trying to figure out like how to phrase this. Like he doesn't jump off the page and he doesn't jump off the film when you watch him. So he's not going to be a top 50 player for me. But I like the ceiling and I like the floor. I think this is a guy that I know he's never going to be a bad football player, and he can be a pretty good one too. And so in this range, when you find an edge rusher like that, I think this is a guy that you draft, and he's one of my favorites in this range for sure.
Interesting. You'll see where I have him a little bit later. I completely disagree. I think he is has a very high ceiling. I'm going to bet on that ceiling. You'll see later in this, and you'll probably be shocked by it, but who cares? Because that's my rankings. I don't really care. I'll talk about a guy who, unfortunately, not really unfortunately, but I feel like he's getting really slept on. Is Jake Golday. We hear all these developments of obviously you have Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, CJ Allen, Anthony Hill, and then of course Jacob Rodriguez is rising. Josiah Trotter is in the mix. Kyle Lewis, if you think of him as a linebacker, Jake Golday is not been talked about at all. And I don't know why. I have him ranked here as my number 56. He blows up the line of scrimmage. Superb tackler. I called him a shocker on there because he just makes plays all over. He's this linear pass rush, tackle off the blockers. Can he be the coverage linebacker? Maybe that's why nobody's really talked about him. Can he get the angle on and trail kind of some of these running backs in the backfield? But man, he's just a really good football player. We have him in the same range. You have him at 64. Nobody's talking about him. I could see him being kind of a Carson Schlesinger sleeper of this draft.
That's a great comp. Like I love that projectability. This linebacker class is just so good. And I think in last year's maybe next year's linebacker class, like any of these other, I mean, the last 4 years have just been not great for linebackers as a whole. And I think you would have gotten be a lot more talked about in any of those classes. It's just tough with this draft class. There's so many good ones.
Talk to me really quickly about what you view Kyle Lewis as at number 60.
Yeah, I've told you this before. He's the first player I've ever graded. He is a nickel. That's the position he is for me. I have him graded as a nickel, and he's really good. I have a top 60 player. He's going to be really good in that role. He is the perfect blend of the coverage skills of a corner that when you put a safety, I mean, when you put a corner at nickel, you love the fact that they're going to be able to line up against slot receivers as well as tight ends, as well as running backs out of the backfield and cover them really well, all at a high level. And he can do that. He's awesome in coverage. He also is built like a smaller linebacker. He's built like a small linebacker. He can tackle like a linebacker can. He has the hands to pop some offensive linemen at the line of scrimmage like a linebacker can. He can blow up plays like a linebacker can. And so the blend of both of those things, like, I mean, dude, defensive coordinators are going to be drooling over getting this guy in their system. He is truly the best of both worlds when you think of having a linebacker in that role or a corner in that role.
I view Avion Terrell is the exact same as Kyle Lewis in nickel. That's how good I think Kyle Lewis can be in this big nickel role. Question is, do NFL teams view him as such? He's going to be in my next slot. I have him ranked higher than Pete Dunne does. That's going to be the big question mark because I just don't think he can play linebacker. I don't think he's good enough to play linebacker. He's too small. I don't think he is the best at reading the play. But from the safety position, that's a different story. And when you got a guy with pop like that, and of course this nickel kind of role that's been evolving in the NFL, you have to respect it. You really just have to respect it. It'll be interesting because when we do our positional rankings, our 2.0, we're going to kind of break all this down. So we're going to have the defensive ends, we're going to have our outside linebackers, we're going to have our corners, our safeties, and then we're going to have nickelbacks. And when we do the nickelbacks, he's going to be number one or number two in that range. It's going to be super exciting to see. We'll move on here to the 43 through 55. We're starting to
Mm.
get closer to what we really like about these guys. Peter, you have the floor. Talk about anyone you want.
Where do we start here? I think the biggest shock some people will have looking at my list is that I have Mesidor 47. And I was not expecting to have him this low. If you would have asked me a couple weeks ago when I was, at 35, 40 players, probably about a month ago, like when we did our last big board, like where do you think Mesidor will be in your last range? Probably 35, 30, like 30, 35 range. I think there's a lot of football players that are better than him in this class. I see a one-dimensional pass rusher. That's all I see with him. And his pass rush is power. He is a power rusher. That is who he is. And he's not good as a run defender. And so, like, with both of those things being said, I totally understand. He's really good as a power pass rusher. Like, it's really good. He is really good at that one thing. But boy, is he a one-trick pony. And I don't see anyone saying anything other than that. There is no argument to that. There's people that just say that's who he is. One-trick ponies don't work in the NFL unless you're absolutely A plus 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 elite at that one thing. And I don't think he is. I think he's really good at it. And so when you go up against Joe Alt and Joe Alt says, "Okay, I know you're what you're going to do," and he just stops you because you can't do that on every play. The thing about power is you have to have a speed to power concept. You have to be able to threaten that outside edge and then run through an offensive tackle's face. He can't do that because he never threatens that outside shoulder, and he doesn't have an inside move. I just I'm not that high on him. I didn't love the film. I understand he's a good player. I still have a top 50 player. That's a really good player in the class. It's just I mean, there's people want him to go to Miami and I like in the first round. And I just like, holy smokes, pump the brakes, y'all. I don't think he's that good.
Mesidor is still in my top 30, but yeah, going 11 at Miami. That's interesting. I'll talk about a guy you said you need that speed to power ratio. Malachi Lawrence, a
Yes. I was
guy
hoping you talk
that
about him.
we are watching after the combine that he had running a 4.52 at 253 pounds with a 40-inch vertical and a 10-10 broad jump. Are we serious? This dude is a monster. Phenomenal outside mover off the edge, plays with tempo. He's got such a deep bag off the pass rush. Obviously, 86th athleticism score at the combine. That's first of all defensive ends and edge rushers. He should be flying up boards, especially when P Dunn has a key Mesidor at 47 and Cassius Howell at 51. Like he should be approaching their level. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think his ceiling is so high. I think it is. I agree with everything you said about him. He is an awesome outside linebacker prospect. He's really good. We have to talk about the fact that we both have Eli Stowers at 53. That's kind of insane that we have him at the exact same spot.
It,
I mean I'll talk about him really quickly. I think he's good. I think he's good. I love the catch radius. Holy smokes. You can throw this foot. You can just like I could throw this football to this guy. And if it's within 20 feet of him, he's gonna catch it. The catch radius is massive. It's one of the biggest I've ever seen. Just because A of the arm length, the wingspan is absurd, but also the vertical, the athleticism. I will say I was expecting a much more nuanced route runner. I was expecting him to be a much more nuanced route runner, and he wasn't. But other than that, I think he's a really good player. I think he's a dream Dolphins fit. I mean, not Dolphins fit, sorry, Broncos fit. I think he'd be awesome in that system. He is that Sadiq-esque, like you have to have a plan for this guy.
yeah, man. I mean, you have to talk about it. Max Clare, for me, has overtaken Eli Stowers. I love what he does. I mean, Pete, do you feel the same way?
I do. He's my tight end too, and he's not even on this slide. He's higher than this. I think he is. Not to steal your thunder. I know you're going to talk about him, but he is everything as a route runner. I think he's the best route running tight end, like the most polished. And he put on weight this last season for Ohio State because they wanted to play him more as a blocking inline tight end. And so you have the capability. You've seen him play at a really high level as a receiver, as well as being a true inline tight end. So this is and, talking about Raritan, I think he can do the same thing. This is a inline tight end that can block really well. Claire can't block the way Raritan can, but Raritan cannot run routes the way Claire can. And so an inline tight end that can flex to the slot because he's such a good receiver, can also play inline tight end and block because he's so good. He's polished. He's very well rounded, and he's a really, really high level contributor in a passing offense. And that is absolutely a very essential thing in the modern NFL offense.
100%. I'll talk about Jeremy Bernard, man. And you love Jeremy Bernard. I love Jeremy Bernard. I keep watching this film, bro, and I just see Doug Baldwin. I see this nuanced route runner. And we'll talk about a guy, JSN today. JSN just got a bag. JSN isn't the most physical receiver. He is an unbelievable route runner. Jeremy Bernard, dude, he can run the entire route tree. He's phenomenal to watch. I know you have him higher than me, which is crazy to say. So I'll give you the floor to talk about your boy.
It's kind of the conversation, you've got Jacob Rodriguez here at 46 talking about he does all the intangibles so well. Like that's what he does. Jeremy Bernard can play receiver so well. He's such a great route runner. He's great off press. He's great sitting in zone. He knows like where like to separate. He knows when to separate. He knows how to set up his routes. Like you said, runs any route tree concept at a really high level. He's just not a great athlete. Like he's not an elite tier athlete. And so if he was, he'd be really, 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 really high on our big boards. But he's not. And so other than that though, like you can't criticize the route running ability. You can't criticize the nuance. It's really, really good.
I mean, I'm betting on that if I'm an NFL scout, if I'm an NFL GM, if I'm anybody. We'll talk about a guy, though, who is an absolute athlete, Josiah Trotter. I am super high on this man. I know you had him on your previous slide. I have him here at number 45. And when you got a bloodline of NFL linebackers, it's going to be hard for me as a scout, me as a GM, to not take you and just know and trust that you're going to turn out like them. I think it's no different here. Those Mizzou boys, with what you have over there with Zion Young and Josiah Trotter, I mean, just studs, bro. He's going to be really good. Do have him higher than Rodriguez. Um, I just think it's a physical thing. And I think Rodriguez, he falls here at 46 for me, but there's just a lot of good players that I think are just better than him, not even at the linebacker position. There's just a lot of good football players in this rank. Jadarian Price, a guy, we had Zach Charbonnet comparisons in our last video. Yeah, number 43 for him is probably too low. The more I get around and the more film I watch, he's going to go higher than this. Um, He's clear cut running back two. It's tier one. You have Jeremiah Love. He's like up here. And then
Yeah.
Jadarian Price, there's a huge drop off from Jeremiah Love to Jadarian Price. But then there's a huge drop off from Jadarian Price to the next guy, Mike Washington. So, an NFL team is going to do really well with him. And we talked about it in the last episode. Durability concerns are not an issue because he got to play behind Jeremiah Love. He hasn't even touched the surface of what he can do as a football player.
No, I mean, you just got fresh tires and you just drove off of the tire shop. They're brand new. They're brand new tires. Like this dude's gonna play in the NFL for a long time. Two guys I want to talk about because they're a similar conversation, even though they're different, I think very polar opposite players, is the two tackles on this list. I think they're both true tackles. I don't think either of these guys are gonna play guard at the next level. I think they're both gonna stick at tackle. Blake Miller. I think he's awesome as a pass protector. I think he's really, really good. I think he knows when to time his strikes. I think he can handle power well. I think over the last few years, I think you've seen that progression of he handles finesse really well. He handles speed really well. He needed to put on weight. He did put on weight. You've seen this last season. He's finally out of all the Clemson guys that had bad seasons, he outperformed all of those guys. He had a really great season last year. So, guy we've heard about for the last few cycles, Max Ionichor out of Arizona State, crazy story. Holy smokes, we've talked about him before on the podcast. Crazy story. Again, I think he's a true tackle. He's built like a tackle. He's massive, and he handles power exactly how you'd expect for his size. Really, really great athlete. Footwork is incredible. You can send a lot of speed rushers at him, and it's going to be tough to get to his outside shoulder. And having that capability to that athleticism to handle power as well as be as athletic as he is with that foot speed is really special. He's just not super nuanced yet. There's a lot of things that need to be polished with him at that offensive tackle position, but at 50, like teams are going to swallow that up. Like, absolutely, I'll take a chance on a tackle if he's this good of an athlete and there's this high of a ceiling on him if I just need to polish him. And teams will, and I hope he has a really great future ahead of him.
I'll go back to your Blake Miller point because for me, he's a top 35 player in this class. He surpasses Caleb Lomu. I'll talk about him in a second. 93 athleticism score on that combine, which was first out of all offensive tackles. 54 career starts. He's super durable. Long arms, quick feet, fluidity. Dude, you got to watch his film, bro. He has this kick slide. It's remarkable just to see the chop footwork that he has. His get off in his first two steps. It's ridiculous. And he drops back so far. He's so long and powerful. He's a motion driver. He's a people mover. For me, he's my offensive tackle four. And for me, he comes ahead of Lomu, and I'll tell you why. I think Caleb Lomu, I think he's just a big block. I think he's super developmental. You're not going to agree with this much because you have him at number 27, but he's super raw as a tackle. I think, yeah, he has the intangibles, he has the body to do all these great things, but I don't see, the lateral move that is going to last in the NFL. I just think he's the guy there that you stick there. He did okay. He did probably above average over there at Utah, but I'm not a big fan of Caleb Lomu. Tell me what you think about him.
Well, again, and I think this is the reason you have, I mean, you still have him as a top 45 player, and I think he's a true tackle. And again, that's something that's really valuable. This is a guy that I don't see moving interior. I don't see him moving to guard. And so I think I disagree with you on the fact that I think he's a really good athlete. I think he's a good athlete. I think he has the athletic ability to handle the speed that comes at the NFL level at a really high level. I think he's a really good athlete. And I think he handles power well as well. Again, I agree with you on the fact that he's not nuanced yet. I struggle with his hands a lot. They're dangly. It feels like when he pops, he doesn't know how to fully pop. If you could kind of just take that one aspect of him, and I know talking about arms as an NFL tackle is hard, but that's the thing that he needs to work on the most when I watch his film is I love his stance. He sinks his hips really well. His kick slides are awesome. He gets to a really good spot. He knows when to sit. He knows how to push. I like his technique there. I just his pops don't their timing isn't great. He doesn't fully extend. When he grips, he doesn't always hold his grip. It's very easy to swipe him to get to his outside shoulder. But with that being said, he has such a good awareness of his upper body and lower body that he's still able to stay in front of you. It's kind of like you're playing a basketball. Like you're like I can you use your arms, but I'm trying to stay in front of you. And he does a really good job at using that frame of his to just slow down these pass rushers. And if you can get him some technique that gets to a point where just like that pops are just a little more explosive, that grip just holds a little bit longer. He's able to swipe when someone tries to pop him because when dudes get inside of his chest, that happens a lot with him. Um, Again, most draft classes, he's a top 50 player for me in a developmental middle of the second round talent. That's just I don't think this is that great of a draft class. And so we've talked about that before. I don't love the top end talent. And with a guy like that, I think he's a top 30 player in this draft. I think that's a top 30 guy that you're going to take a chance on because a tackle that has the nuance and um, the the understanding of how to use his body at that level already. I can teach you to time your punches more actively. I can teach you to grip better. I can't teach you how to move like that. You don't, that's not teachable. And so that's instinctive. He has really good instincts at the position, and I'm going to trust that translating to the next level. So that's why I have him so high.
Very, very interesting. We'll move on here to our 31 through 42. You see it on the screen. Blake Miller, obviously, in that 34 slot, like I was talking about in the last slide. Peter, is there anything shocking on my list that you think is a little bit crazy?
Hmm. I think you're underrating Christian Miller. I think he's a
Oh,
better player than that. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people right now are kind of on this train of, um, is he really a high level defensive tackle prospect? And I think he is. I think he needs to be in that conversation. He is absolutely someone worthy of taking a first round pick on. We've talked about it before. He is the least, someone said this, and it's the best way I've framed it. He's the least talked about really good football player in this draft. And he's going to go and he's going to be a second contract guy for a really good NFL team and going to be a three tech that you literally draft him and you don't think about that position for the next 10 years. You get a chance to draft that in the first round, you take that player. And so I'm very high on him. A player I was higher on than I was expecting was Colton Hood. I'd heard a lot of stuff about him, and I was like, okay, is it real? Is he really that good of a press corner? Like, is he really that good in man? He is. He's good. I didn't like the zone reps. I didn't like the tackling. I didn't think he was a great tackler. I think he wasn't super physical through the routes, which I kind of struggled with. But the technique is very good. It's very good. His hips are fluid. His footwork mirrors what the receiver is doing very well. His chest is always pointed in a direction where he knows what the receiver is going to do, and he's very anticipatory. So I like all those things. That's a top 40 player, and that's a player that you draft. Absolutely. He reminds me a lot of Trey Amos last year as a second round corner that has that capability that you absolutely take. You saw what Amos did last year with the Commanders. He was the only bright spot on that secondary. And so you take that player, you plug and play him in a system that knows how to use them, and I think it'd be really good for an NFL organization.
Got to go to the Seahawks at 32. Yeah, he's at number 33 on my list. Why not, dude? I mean, lost a few corners. Let's go get Colton Hood. I
Oh
think he's
yeah.
a dog. Another guy that could be in play for that Seattle Seahawks secondary. It's going to be Brandon Cisse, man. And, there wasn't much film on him that I could really watch. He's just such a developmental guy. But, man, I believe, and I'm going to put all the faith that my NFL franchise can develop him, build him up to be whatever he can be. If it's a nickel corner, if it's a boundary corner, if he's a man, if he's a zone specialist, I don't care, bro. But the intangibles are there. You got to build on it. I'm super excited to see what Brandon Cisse can bring to an NFL organization this coming fall.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about an athlete, like holy smokes, what an athlete. He is like off the charts. Denzel Boston is a guy that I've had as, I've talked about before. I've had him as high as top 12 on my big board at times, earlier on this cycle. I was very high on him. And this is because the ex receiver that is as athletic as he is and can move the way that he does, especially at the catch point, is as flexible as he is, doesn't come around very often. Again, just like we talk about all the time with 6'4", 220 receivers, he's just not that shifty, and there's not a lot of wiggle there. And so he's continually dropped on my board, but this is a guy that I think has a long, long road ahead of him as an NFL receiver. He's going to be in the NFL for a long time. I like what he's going to be able to do. I think he's good at the contested catch point. I think he's a good route runner. He's kind of the if you take like Ted Hurst and Chris Bell and put them together. And that combine those two players, I think that's who Denzel Boston is, and that's a really good football player.
I'm super high on him. I think I see shades of Puka when I watch Denzel Boston play football. And he's a really good dude. Just seeing the interviews, he's super professional. He's super, like you get that feeling from a receiver sometimes, especially, a diva position like the receiver, where he's just going to be a dog. He's going to impact the locker room. That's what I see with Denzel Boston. I'm talking about a guy who's not getting enough love right now because the linebacker really class is super inflated after seeing what Sonny Styles did, after seeing what Jacob Rodriguez is doing and all these different CJ Allen. Anthony Hill Jr., bro, I haven't heard much about him. I don't know if it's a recency bias thing. He's a really good football player. More teams need to be talking about him. I don't know why they don't. I mean, huge tackle radius, great run defender, middle linebacker, probably going to be a green dot guy. Can also play inside, awesome lateral mover. I want him on my NFL football team. You got to go take him. And then Emmanuel McNeil Warren, yeah, man. I mean, obviously Thieneman had a really good combine, and he's probably going to come in as my safety too. He's overtaken EMW, but such a traitsy player. You take the risk on that as a true deep safety, which, like I said, there's so many nickels in this NFL draft class. There's not enough deep, true safeties. You see Thieneman, you see EMW. That's what you're getting with McNeil Warren. Super excited to see where he goes because that back pedal is lethal.
Yeah, similar conversation with Thieneman. I am lower on him than consensus. I have him at 37. Again, the stuff about him in the top 15 is just way too rich for me. I understand he's a great athlete, and I understand his specialty is that deep safety role. I have to have my safeties be able to be more physical than he is. I don't trust that he is a physical. He plays a physical brand of football, and I also don't trust him over the middle of the field. Like if if he's in a safety coverage and they're running it too high and there is a backside dig concept, I don't trust him to be physical enough to break up that pass with that tight end. I don't think he's great at the catch point. I don't think he's great with big contact receivers. He's really great as a free, like back end safety. He reminds me of Xavier Watts. I think Xavier Watts was a better ball hawk. I was high. I think Xavier Watts was a better safety prospect than him. And So I think he's good. Again, I still have him in this range. I think he's really good at what he does, but again, I think he's more of a one-trick pony, and I don't think the athleticism the combine showed adds that much value to his game that we didn't already know. And so my stock really hasn't changed that much with him outside of the combine.
Very interesting. I think a guy whose stock has been up and down constantly. Cassius Howell, he's obviously lower than consensus. He's definitely dropped for me, but I think some guys are really sleeping on him. 27 sacks in his NFL career because they're all worried about the arm length. But the arm length got production over at Texas A&M. I'm not too concerned with Cassius Howell. I do think he is a strictly outside linebacker. I don't think he's going to be a defensive end because of the arm length, but you're still getting a really good player at 31 on my board. I'll move on here to the 20 through the 30 slot. And P Dunn, talk to me about what's on your screen.
Yeah, I mean, Branch is probably the biggest riser from our last episode to where he is now. I have him as at 29. I think he's really, really good. And this is a player that I just expected to not be as good of a route runner as he was. And he's good. He was not asked to do a lot at Georgia, but when he was, you see it. And combining that with the athleticism and how good he was with what they asked him to, that is so translatable to the next level. There is room. Like I know what you can do as a yak specialized touches player, but you can also produce as a real receiver. I think you can be a every down slot receiver or a field receiver in the NFL. And so I like that. That's a guy that I really like and was very impressed with. Got to talk about Jacob Rodriguez. He's actually the biggest riser for me since last time. I heard the other day that I like the way this is framed, that the combine is not a player evaluation thing, it's an answering of questions. And you don't figure out who's a good NFL player at the combine. You answer questions about them at the combine. And Jacob Rodriguez most emphatically answered questions about him at the NFL combine. The biggest question of the week was Jermod McCoy's medicals and is Jacob Rodriguez, for me at least, those are my two biggest questions. And is Jacob Rodriguez a good enough athlete? And he's better than that. I've talked about this so many times. I'm fascinated by why more people are not talking about this because this dude was awesome last year. He was borderline Heisman finalist. And that's not fluke. He's not a one-trick pony at, cool Manti Te'o, like college linebacker, right? This is a good linebacker that is translatable to the next level in both coverage, both in the run game. I think he's physical and he is so smart. I love linebackers that win with their head. We're going to talk about one a lot later in this episode that I have kind of high that wins with his head. And Jacob Rodriguez does that. The guy above him, CJ Allen, they do that. And he was a good athlete. He tested really well. I am struggling to see why more people are not talking about this. I'm very, very, very high on Jacob Rodriguez.
Still down on Makai Lemon on my board. He'll be my number 30th player. I have Boston ahead of him. I have Concepcion, who's gone into my number 3 rank. Look at how far I've come in my
Yeah.
ranks. But yeah, Makai Lemon, man, he's going to be the wide receiver 5. I saw the pro day. I saw the 40. He's a heel runner, and it's awkward. I don't want to kind of crap on him a little too much, but I don't know, man. It's just I don't see it. I had Matthew Golden in this range last year in the 27 range, and he ended up proving I called that one that he would kind of be a bust, and
For
I just
now,
don't
for
see it.
now, for now.
You think that he's going to turn up? He should have turned up last year when the wide receiver room was wide open in Green Bay. Makai Lemon's going to go higher than 30 in this draft, if we're being realistic. At the same time, I don't think that should be happening. I don't think he's as good of a prospect as people think, compared to a Denzel Boston or a Concepcion, who's just exceptional. You're going to get a really good player because he's probably going to go late first round. He's probably not going to go mid first round. And you're going to get a superb player for the value. Sadiq here at my 23, I think it's a really good range for him. Yeah, I just think that everything that he does, he kind of rises and rises and rises. But you have to remember he's a tight end. The blocking issues. There's so many questions. Can he develop in that aspect? Because he's going to be a great tight end. You know it. You see it. So that's how I feel about Sadiq.
I want to talk about TJ Parker to wrap up this, this individual segment. I think I'm rising on him. He's a guy that's growing on me. And so I was not expecting to like him as much. I like to see production out of defensive ends. I do. I am less in I do not get as infatuated by traits at that position. TJ Parker has traits. He's a really good athlete. And he's a very prototypical size. He's very what you'd expect him to be with a really good athlete, and he produced really well the year before this year. And I think the flashes this year show that I don't think that year was a fluke. I think this year was a down year, and I think those are two different things. And so I think what you saw last year was his floor as a player. And I'm willing to bet that he's going to move up and be a better player in maybe year one of his NFL career. I think this is a guy that does everything you want him to do as a pass rusher and will contribute in the run game. He has a plan. He is speed to power well. He can translate both of those things. He can beat your outside edge. He can go through your face. He can get back inside. The spin moves there. He really likes to utilize that. He has a plan. It's not the same thing over and over again. You see a game to game difference on how he's going to attack these offensive tackles. And when I see a defensive end win like that, I trust that it's going to translate.
He's one of those true defensive ends. He's not going to play outside linebacker at the next level. Man, if he falls to the Eagles are probably going to take him. Like any of those teams in that 3-4 system, who really could need a true defensive end are going to take a guy like TJ Parker. It'll be super interesting to see how his floor rises because I think he's got one of the highest floors of all of the defensive end prospects in this draft. We'll move on here. It's the 9 through 19. And here it is. Pete, on first thoughts, what do you want to talk about? I see something glaring on this screen.
Go ahead, hit me. What's glaring?
I see Fernando Mendoza at number 18. You got to tell me why.
Well, I've spent a lot of time talking about Mendoza and the things I struggle with him. And I go through the fluctuation period of, okay, do I trust the arm or do I trust what I've seen and the processing ability and the struggle in the pocket? And as soon as his first read's not there, he collapses, unable to go through multiple reads, unable to handle pressure. He doesn't step up well in the pocket. He doesn't navigate the pocket well. I heard somebody say there's about a 2 second time clock for him internal, and then he just runs out of the pocket, and that cannot happen at the NFL level. And so, I've spent a lot of time talking about him. I don't think he's a bad quarterback prospect. There's a guy 2 spots behind him, Ty Simpson, who I love, and I still think Mendoza's better because the arm talent is that good. And I think this is a guy that can develop, but to expect him to be NFL ready anytime soon is not he's not there. Ty Simpson is absolutely more NFL ready than Fernando Mendoza is right now. I feel very, very confident about saying that. Ty Simpson is an elite level processor. His processing ability is elite. It's one of the best I've ever seen at the quarterback position to understand what the defense is doing, to go through his reads, to understand what the offense is supposed to do, where he's going to place the ball, matched with a really good arm. It's good. To talk about Simpson really quick, the red flags, he's not big. He's smaller than I thought he was going to be. I think he's 6'1", somewhere around 200 pounds. Like that's small. He's not a big quarterback. And the SEC mauled him last year. You can say there's a positive of the fact that he was injured so much last year because you understand when he was healthy, he was awesome and was in the conversation and probably the front runner for the Heisman and the number one overall pick for a while in the season. And then he got hurt. Well, yeah, he got hurt because he's 6'1", 200 pounds and he's thin. And so he's going to have to get on an NFL regimen and put on weight and be able to still do the things that he does right now. And I struggle with the fact that the production wasn't great in the back half of the year, but I can go like that's a tangent too. The run game was terrible for Alabama. He was injured. The team fell off a cliff at the end of the year. So there's a lot of things there I struggle with. I think Mendoza's good. I think Simpson's good. They are absolutely in the same tier. They might end up swapping by the end of this season. This cycle, it is very realistic that I could have Ty Simpson as my quarterback one. And I could make an argument for you right now on that. I want to talk about Peter Woods. Man, I am a sucker for a defensive tackle. I really am. I have a really good one, a lot higher than this that you have in 15. Who I'm higher. I have him higher than I did last time on our Big Board episode. And so I really like defensive tackles. I think they're one of the most important positions of football, and I would love to love Peter Woods. Um, the combine we talked about earlier, it's about answering questions. He freaked me out at the combine. Coming in sub 300 is glaring for a guy that's production has decreased over the last 3 years. He's gotten worse every year, and now he's getting drafted at this where he is. So coming in sub 300 was scary. What the process we see with these, any of these defensive, any position is if you come in light, you're preparing to run, right? You're preparing to put up crazy numbers, athletic numbers, just freaking, maul it on the 40, go as fast as you can. He didn't even participate. He came in light, real light. That's light for a defensive tackle, especially the way that he plays. And didn't run and didn't do any athletic testing. And that freaks me out. Like why are you why are you weighing that and not running the way that you're supposed to be? I don't know. It scared me. I like the flashes. The flashes are absolutely there. I liked a lot of what I saw on film from him. Nowhere near as I liked the guy that I have a lot higher. But he's again, I still have him as a top, whatever I have, 16 player in this draft. I just there's definitely some question marks for me there.
Yeah, I think Peter Woods is going to be a stud. I'll go on a tangent a little bit. He's going to be the guy. He can go into a lot of systems. I wrote down here two eye, 4 eye spots. He's going to dominate. I'm not worried about the weight. He's going to get that back up. He's going to be in a really good spot. I'm not worried about the combine. He didn't have much to prove anyway. You could say down year for Clemson guys. It doesn't matter. I think he's a number 13 player in this class. Talk about a guy really quickly who I think the media is starting to misconstrue in a way. He's a really good football player. It's going to be David Bailey. And I think we think similarly. I have him higher than you do. You have him at 19. I have him at 11. I'm seeing him go number 3 to the Cardinals. I just don't see that at all. I feel like there is a tier drop off from where Ruben Bain is and then where David Bailey is and the production you get from them. And even Ruben Bain has had a drop off in a way, but absolutely not the way that David Bailey plays. They're not on the same level at all. I think the big thing, man, you're looking here and you're really having to think, and he's going to get in trouble from just moving off speed and finesse because that's really what David Bailey is. I don't see enough power. I see a lethal spin move, and the change of direction is ridiculous. He's a chaser. He's a great block shedding tackler, and he fights through the blocks. But I mean, he needs a better bag. He needs that escape strength. Like there's so many things with David Bailey. He's a great football player. Don't get me wrong. He's rated number 11. That's an unbelievable spot. He's not top 10 for me, and I don't think I'm crazy for saying that.
I don't think you are either. I mean, I obviously have him at 19. I think he's not a one trick pony. You have to draft him, and you cannot expect him to do what Ruben May does. You can't expect him to even do what Keldrick Falk does. This is not an every down player, I don't think, at the next level. Um, Who do we want to talk about next year? I want to talk about Avion Terrell because I have him in 9. And I think I might be the highest on him than most anybody in this draft cycle. Like, I think he's awesome. I absolutely think he's a lockdown outside corner. And I know there's talks of putting him inside. I think he's too good in press. I think he's too physical. I think you absolutely leave him outside. The arm length is good. I mean, this dude, his man technique is just like is so good. It's so good. It's so good. I could talk about it for hours. Everything he does, the fluidity in the hips, the way his chest traces, like the way he sinks his hips through routes, the way he's able to anticipate things, it's all flawless. He is a really, 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 really good coverage corner and man coverage corner. He's not great in the run game. He's smaller. I think you see the weight in the run game. I don't think you see it through the routes. I think he's able to handle weight and other opponents' weights well when people are trying to contact him throughout their routes. He's able to bounce that well. You do see it when he's in the run game and he's having to try and shed a block or he's having to try and tackle a running back. You do see the weight problems. Um, Another guy and I'm really high on his KC Concepcion. I mean, again, a deep threat that can do the route tree that he can is very rare to be able to have a dude that can run the way KC can, but also be as fluid. Again, it's kind of neighborsy. He kind of gives me Malik Neighbors vibes with like, oh my gosh, you are literally a track star, but you're a really good route runner too. And I don't think he's Neighbors. He didn't produce the way Neighbors did. I don't think he's that good of a route runner, but he's a similar level deep threat. He's a similar level athlete. Um, Neighbors had more weight on him too than KC does. But yeah, who else we want? Did we check all these boxes?
No,
What else?
I have to ask about. I have Jamal McCoy at my 14. You have Mansour Delane at your 15. I don't see Jermod McCoy in this list. I'm a little confused. Can you tell me why?
Well, he's on the next slide because I think he's the best corner in this class. I am absolutely willing to put aside the medicals and understand that our job with the position we're in right now is to watch the tape and tell you how good of a football player he is. And the medicals are not my job to figure out. And Jermod McCoy is the best corner in this class. He's a top five player in this class, pure talent wise. He is the he's everything I talked about with Terrell, with him as a man corner and a really, really good zone corner, as well as being able to be really physical in the run game. He checks all three boxes, and that is a top five player lockdown corner. You draft him and you start him for a long time at your corner position.
You heard it here first on the Draft Guys podcast. Pete Dunne's so high on Jermod McCoy. We'll move on here to our top eight, and we'll reveal the list. And here it is. Our top eight, Jermod McCoy at the sixth slot for P. Dunn. And P. Dunn, is there anything that you want to talk about on this slide?
Yeah, Jeremiah Lovett won. Whoa, best player in the class. Like I mean, I would have it won too if I didn't have Sonny Styles at one. I think he's freaking awesome. But talk to me about Jeremiah Love. Just hit me on him real quick.
It's just unbelievable. What he brings to the table. I think he is the best player in this class. I think he's better than Orville Reese. Mendoza dropped two slots for me. He's number three now. Sonny Styles at four. Caleb Downs five. Ruben Baines six. Carnell Tate seven. And then Delane at eight. Yeah, Jeremiah Love does it all, dude. I mean, the second level. I just think of the value. I just can't not think of Gibbs. And I know Gibbs went 11th to the Lions a few draft classes ago. And just knowing the talent that Gibbs is and what he brings, it's just hard, man, for me not to put Jeremiah Love in the top three. Henceforth, he is the number one player in my class. He does everything so well. People don't value the running back, but I do. Jeremiah Love is going to be a top five running back this year. If he goes to the Titans, which is the perfect spot for him, oh, brother, man. And that developing offense, it's going to be crazy. If he goes to the Commanders, oh, man. If he goes to the Chiefs, forget about it. It's going to be even better. I don't think he'll do that anymore with the K9 signing, but there could be some team that's going to trade up for him, and all hell's going to break loose when that happens. Jeremiah Love, my number one player in this class.
It's been crazy to see the arc of like, okay, Jeremiah Love, like probably a top 20 pick, pretty good, right? Then like, okay, Chiefs at nine feels pretty safe. Like, okay, he might go third to the Cardinals, fourth to the Titans, and then it's like, okay, but is he really? He's not better than Gentry? And then it's like, yeah, he's better than Gentry. Well, he's like, and then it's even like, okay, like, but he's not Bijan and Saquon. Like, no, but he might be in the same tier. Like he's that good. And people are starting. I've been saying this since, when we did the really early, like back in October, when we did a really early look at the draft. He's, I think he's, I think he's borderline generational, borderline. And with that being said, the last guy I'll talk about, Sonny Styles is the first generational player I've ever given a tag to on my draft scouting journey over the last 4 years. He is the first player I've ever watched that says truly there is a player that comes around once every 10 years at this position. Sonny Styles, you are a once a decade type of player. I have never seen someone so dominant at their position the way Sonny Styles is. And he is truly, I mean, I could talk about him for another hour if I wanted to. He is everything you could ever want in a linebacker. Everything. Everything mentally elite, physically elite. Every aspect of the game is perfect. It's perfect. And I know I'm higher than most people have him. If just talking about Jeremiah Love, if Sonny Styles wasn't in this class, I would be talking about Jeremiah Love as my best player in the class. But Sonny Styles is the first generational player I have ever scouted. I think he is absolutely, I mean, saying he's elite does not do it justice. He is generational.
Someone needs to take him. I'm not really sure where he's going to go. He's probably going to be in that 5 through 8 range. He may even go up 4 to the Titans. They kind of need a middle linebacker. It's going to be crazy to see. It's going to be a steal. He's number 4 on my list as well. I've definitely been a riser on him. Caleb Downs is a guy, a little bit of recency bias. Nobody's talking about how good he is. You have him at 3. I have him at 5. They're talking about the medicals. I don't care. Talking about a blue chip prospect that we've heard about for years now. I mean, this guy's been hyped up for years and he lives up to all of the hype. I'm
Yeah.
super excited to see where he goes. I think he's going to break the market here for safeties in terms of draft position. I think he's going to be the highest drafted safety ever when he comes. And I think that is, I don't know what it is, what pick it is. Maybe I think it's number 11 or something around that range. He's going to be the highest drafted safety of all time. You're going to see it when they draft him on draft night. I have one more thing for you, Pete. You got to talk to me about Vega at 7. I love it, but you got to
Yeah.
give me a
I
quick
mean,
peek.
he's his tape. I had watched one game when we did our last big board episode, and I remember telling you like, man, I don't see anything wrong. Like he's every rep is not say he's a perfect prospect, but it's really good. And then I watched another game, and the more I thought about it, I was like, and the more I hear other people talk about it, and the more I understand him as a player, I'm like, you're just a really, really, really good guard prospect, and the best I think since Quentin Nelson. Will Campbell, different conversation, but I think he's really good, and he's absolutely worthy of being in this range. I don't have positional value on my big board. Obviously, 1 and 2, 3, safety, running back, linebacker, guard at 7. But I think he's really good, and he's absolutely one of the best players in this class.
I can't wait to watch him. He's my number 12. By far, for us, the number 1 guard in this class. We thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Draft Guys Big Boards 2.0 Top 100.